I am Bharat. I head marketing for an organization called Junglee Games. Just a show of hands, how many people played any fantasy app, cricket fantasy app during the IPL? Dream 11, My 11 Circle, How's That, anything. Okay, how many of you will play it after the IPL? Probably zero, right? Uh, when was the last time you got really hooked onto a game? Candy Crush, Subway Surfer, Wordle, etc., etc. Right? A lot of people did that. Probably during the session. Yeah. Uh, when was the last time where you forgot playing the game completely? Was there any moment in your life that happened where you played a game continuously for 7 days, 10 days, a month, but then you stopped playing the game completely? I'm sure that would have happened. You would have been hooked onto the game. A friend would have said, "Oh, I love this game. Why don't you try it?" Back in the day, you would have gotten a lot of notifications for Candy Crush, but then you stopped playing it. A lot of people tell me gaming, what do you want? Like, there's nothing to do in retention in gaming. Why? Because games are addictive, right? But then there's nothing to do in retention for Netflix also, right? Because you're addicted to the content. If you're a Game of Thrones user and Hotstar didn't do anything, you still go and watch, right? If you're an IPL viewer, you still go and watch, which means Hotstar does not have to do anything. But then there are a set of people in the retention team and the product team there who are trying to get you back. As I think Anshuman said in the last session, there are ways where, or there are methods how you calculate retention, or there is a need to calculate retention in a certain way for a specific product. There could be a day-on-day retention, there could be a week-on-week, there could be a month-on-month. So my journey started from food tech, went to movie ticketing, and I've been in gaming for the last 5 years. Retention in gaming is very beautiful and very difficult and very challenging and exciting at the same time. Why? Because retention is so closely correlated with product. It is almost that product and retention there is a huge overlap. When you look at a Venn diagram, there's just a huge overlap. And so my learning as a marketer, someone who's come purely from a marketing standpoint, is that whatever retention does impacts my metrics, whatever I do impacts the product guy's metric. And just want to share some insights or some use cases from gaming that might help people who are in the non-gaming world. I think from a show of hands, there was no one in gaming, or there has been Mr. Sachin Uppal, but other than that, so what I would want from this session is a takeaway for you guys in terms of how can you leverage some micro events or dopamine events that we like to call it in gaming that could help in retention in your different verticals. Can we move to the next one manually? Yeah. Again, very simple, very basic. How, what, and why is of retention. What is retention? The act of making a repeat purchase or a repeat event. Whatever you call it, that event could be conversion, that event could be a video watch, that event could be an order, etc. Why? I think that's why in the retention has come in the last 2 or 3 years. Me and Sachin were having a casual chat that at least back in the day, and I've been in the VC money burning mode myself, where what mattered was top line. What mattered was growth. What mattered were numbers. But I think slowly and steadily in the ecosystem in the last 3 or 4 years especially, the conversation has moved to bottom line. And I was very happy to attend some of the sessions and see that people were talking about EBITDA. Gaming inherently has to be an EBITDA positive business. There is no way that you can survive. There are ways that you can survive by burning money, but if you're a bootstrap startup, there is no way that you can survive if you don't have your retention metrics right and correct. And if you're not beating retention metrics that the competitor has. So just purely from the why standpoint, I think retention right now is the holy grail if you want your business to be sustainable for 5 years, 10 years, and if you want to build a long-lasting brand. It is not just about building beautiful ads but not seeing revenue at the end of the day. It is not about getting 1 million users during IPL, as Anshuman was saying, but just not seeing them come back during the next IPL. There's no use. How did retention start? This is one of my favorite tales to tell, is casinos in Vegas figured out these are my top 1 percentile players. Internally, they used to call them as whales. These are my whales. Once they come, I will not let them go. Once they enter my casino, I will not let these guys go. What do they want? They want free food, free stay, suite, jacuzzi, Britney Spears concert tickets, etc. They want anything in the world. We will do a concierge service for them, but we'll give them everything so that these 1 percentile of the users stay, and that 1 percentile would give them 50-60% of their overall revenue. And that is how it becomes important to retain customers. Now, how do we measure retention? Some people measure it in days. A classic example being, if I have launched the game, do I know that people are retaining in day 1? Are they coming back to play in day 7? Are they coming back to play in day 30? When to measure in months? When you also want to understand that from an acquisition standpoint, if you've acquired the right quality of traffic, you should not be happy that the user is coming on day 7, day 14, and then get churned out of the system. You need to look at week-on-week retention. When to measure in months or years? Month also, what we do is, the top 1 percentile of the customer who generates 60% of overall revenue, is that consumer coming every month, even to play 1 game, 2 games? Because you know, if that person comes to play 1 game, they will play 100 games also. So month-on-month retention for my top 1 percentile becomes the holy grail or the North Star metric for the retention team, is that these people need to come back. Can it be as high as 95%? And we've seen cases where it is as high as 95% purely because of the tested techniques that we'll talk about later. When to measure in years? Purely when you want to build a profitable business. As simple as that. If you want to build a profitable business, think when people are coming back year on year. For example, if you have a daily fantasy sports business, Dream 11, we have a game called House At, etc., etc. Now, if the user is not coming back to play the next IPL with you, all the marketing dollars that you spent in buying inventory on Hotstar, Star Sports, Facebook, etc., then goes for a toss, because that user is giving you, for example, the cohort typically is 1,000 rupees that you do to acquire a user that you pay. The user will give you 200, 300 rupees in the first IPL. Now, if the guy is not coming back to play the next IPL, whatever you've done in the last year goes for a toss. So that is why you would also want to see year-on-year retention, and not just day and not just months, or not 2 or 3 of them, just all of them. This is like, I never thought this is my favorite meme, like the graph you want and the graph you get. On the y-axis is your marketing budget. Every IPL will go up. And I'm sure it's across all domains, because IPL now is Diwali. Ki agla campaign to mera, what is my IPL campaign? Earlier it used to be, what is my Diwali campaign? Now it's, what is my IPL campaign? CPMs will go up because everyone has an IPL campaign. So your marketing budget shoots up. Year on year, it keeps on happening. The left is the graph you want in terms of ROI, that I'll get decent ROI. Maybe it will peak even if I continue spending, but this is the minimum ROI that I need at a year on year level. On the right is the graph that you typically get. How do we do things to keep the graph, to be the business, to be in the left of the graph and not the right of the graph? This is what we are going to talk about. This is something very basic, but when I interview people, a lot of people miss it, which is how to calculate ROI. ROI is very simple: return on investment, revenue divided by cost. This is the typical definition that everyone has. Why it is wrong is because, let's say you have a 100 million bottom line and have a 200 million top line. Let's say it's a very good business to be in. Now the marketing guy decides, okay, I'll put in 100 million, but sir, मैं ना revenue 300 million कर दूंगा. So you were at 100 and 200, now it becomes 200 and 300. Everyone's happy, CEO is happy, investor is happy, everyone's happy. But now the next time that you put in, you try and pull the same trick again. I will put in 100 again, that 200 will go to 300, your marketing budget, but your revenue will not go from 300 to 400 because there is incrementality that comes in. So we'll go from 300 to 350. That is why looking at just top line divided by cost is not a good method. Ultimately, what you do, you're trying to be an EBITDA positive business, at least for gaming. So what we do generally is net revenue minus cost divided by cost, so that anything that you put in as bonuses and cashbacks someone is held accountable for the bonus and cashbacks that you are giving. Otherwise, then it's as simple as giving people money and then hoping that it will come back someday. Key metrics that we track, there is D7 ROI. So there is D7 ROI. The definition is very simple. Let's say you're paying 1,000 rupees to acquire a customer. In the first 7 days, the customer gives you 100 rupees. D7 ROI 10%. Again, I'm taking gross D7 ROI, not the net D7 ROI. Similarly, by D30, if the revenue is 200, D30 ROI becomes 20%. Very simple. Now, why do you want to look at D7 ROI? And again, raise of hands, how many people look at D7 ROI as of now? On a daily level, from your marketing campaigns at a Facebook ad ID level. Okay, so if people are not doing that, then I would urge and implore you to start doing that. Why? It helps you to, how do you then track the effectiveness of your acquisition campaigns? Is it purely basis CAC? That my CAC was 500, now my CAC is 490, I've done a great job, I deserve a promotion. That's not how it works. And that's not how it should work. D7 ROI again is used just to see if your campaigns are doing well or not. If the cohorts that you're acquiring, if the users that are acquiring are good or not. Users, again, this is, the next step is D30 ROI. You also want to see if the initial spurt or the initial excitement that the user had for the product, is it dwindling or not? Which means, is your retention correct? Is your product correct? Is the perceived utility on day 1 same as day 30? So you'd also want to keep a track on D30. We do a lot more. We do D60, D90, D360, etc. But this is the beginning of what at least you would want to do when it comes to acquisition as well as retention in gaming. Again, usage of year 1 ROI to see if even the business is sustainable or not. And from an acquisition perspective, retention perspective, marketing perspective, if you guys are not doing it, then please start creating these dashboards. Very simple, lot of insights, tools, jargon available on internet. You just start doing it. Simple nahi hai, but it is theoretically very simple to create such dashboards. Now, once you've realized that, okay, this is my D7 and this is my D30, and the competitor is doing 10% higher than you, or the competitor is doing something better in retention that you like, then what do you do? Now, this is just one type of cohort. There would be different type of cohorts that you would look at. You look at age-based cohorts. You look at, again, this is very simple RFM model. What I'd want as a takeaway is very simple. When you start cohorting these customers, what would you also want to do once you realize that your retention is low? Retention is not just discounts, bonuses, and cashbacks. Taken multiple interviews to tell people that once you've done a Diwali discount of 10% or 20 or 30 or 40, that is not the end of it. So how do you then start tackling all these cohorts? The top right is the customer which is the best. Frequency is very high, plays the game every day. Monetization, great, gives me a lot of revenue. That is the customer that we all want. That is a customer that Avlesh also wants, and I'm sure has. But this is the guy that everyone wants, right? Throw the kitchen sink at that person when you want to retain that person. What we do in gaming is very simple. We go to an extent where if the consumer is based in a village in Tamil Nadu, a tier 2 village, and understands only Tamil, our customer care agent will talk to that person in Tamil. Very simple. Even when the person picks up the phone and calls us, there would be a tagging in the background that says that, okay, this guy understands Tamil, talk to him in Tamil. So there is a dedicated customer agent. I know that is not very cost effective, but at the same time, this is the guy who's giving you 50, this is the cohort that is giving you 50% of your revenue. Don't let this person go. Bottom line, you have to do anything and everything, just stop that person from going away to competition. Then I'll go here, which is the direct opposite, which is the frequency is low and the monetization is also low. This would be 70-80% of your user base. If you're in a great industry, would be 50%, but typically this is the customer that you don't want. But this is again the customer that you get. What you want to do in gamification is give them missions and milestones. Everyone wants to engage, everyone wants to be loved, everyone wants to get that self-respect up from playing a game? Can you gamify their whole retention experience? Can you have certain achievements or a module built in? Okay, congratulations on your third purchase. Congratulations on your third game win. And make that person feel special, which is what we call as micro dopamine events. If you can do that, great. This person will definitely stick. Even if that person is not paying, at least the person will keep on coming back to play the game. And slowly and steadily, we've seen that a healthy percentage of them converts and starts giving us revenue. The last, again, very simple, very basic automation of journeys, because this is a customer where you don't want to put in a lot of manual effort, because it's a huge base, it's a 70-80% of the base. Give them automated journeys. The other customer's frequency is very high, but the monetization is very low. Very simple, give them some discounts on a higher purchase, cross-sell other products. I think there was a question around how do you improve engagement for a milk app. But people have done it, right? People started by only giving milk, but then you have grocery, you have this, you have that, etc., dairy products. So people have figured out a way that, okay, if the engagement, so again, the frequency is very high, but then the monetization is low. How do you improve monetization? If there is one game, you build 2 games in the same product. If there are 2, you build 3 in the same product, so that the customer has multiple use cases to open the app. The last is monetization is high and the frequency is low. This guy comes, again, God of War customer, comes, plays the game every year, spends 100 hours on it, buys multiple guns, etc., disappears for a year, then does not come back. This is something that has worked almost for every gaming company that I know, which is daily spin the wheel. If I don't know how many people know about the MyJar app. MyJar is an app where I'm shamelessly plugging the name. I don't know why, but I'm a very happy customer. What they do is, after every transaction that you do, they give you 5 spins. And then you spin the wheel. Ultimately, you get 5-10 rupees out of it, but it just makes you happy. I think what Swiggy has done it, after every order, you play a jackpot, right? That's a way of building higher frequency, higher engagement. There are mini games that you can build in. I see now a lot of people realizing the value of mini games, where there are scratch cards, there are jackpots, there is daily spin the wheel. There is something or the other which makes the user open your app. So these are some of the things which, again, as I said, are time tested, have worked well for almost everyone who's tried doing it. I'll come to things which are new, which are something that we are doing right now. Me and Ankur, we used to work together and always talked about how reactivation is just so difficult. Reactivation is damn well difficult. Why? Because the customer has lost interest in you due to invariably any reason. He went on a 10-day trip to Paris. Stop playing your game. Next day, his or her partner, spouse was like, yaar, tum bahut game khelte ho. Itna game mat khela karo. The person stopped playing your game. You went to an area where you had low network. 7 दिन आपने game नहीं खेला. 8वें दिन you'll not return. Because there are so many use cases of someone not using the app. Prevention or churn prevention, in fact, becomes very, very, very important when you're a gaming company. What we do right now is, I think the top 4 are still a little higher, and when you are more deeper in the retention journey, the bottom 3 are very important. Refer a friend program, very simple. If you have a friend, the research says that if you have a friend playing a game, you will retain 40% higher than the average customer. So if you can somehow build that social connection and highlight that your friend is playing that game, why don't you come back? That's a sure shot winner. Or your friend is on this app, your friend is doing something on Swiggy or Zomato or all the newer D2C products, especially. If your friend has used a D2C product, I bought a very nice t-shirt, I recommended my friend. That's a game changer, trust me. It'll at least drive 20-30% higher conversions. What we do is matching players with similar opponents. I think this is what I would not call opponents, but this is what Ola and Uber try to do. I think now it's an opponent, a driver, and a passenger are opponents in a way. This is what they keep on trying to do, is that you get a ride in 5 minutes and you don't have to fight. You don't have to be like, bhaiya, aap yahan aa jao, main yahan par hu, this, that, etc. What is imperative for us is that if I'm a newbie, I should not be on a table which has people who played 100 games or 200 games. So for us, this becomes a very important retention tool is that people have to be matched against people of similar skill, similar experience. The last is VIP service retention. Again, retention exists outside of email, push, and SMS. I would like to call it out. I know I'm in a WebEngage conference, but there is retention outside of all of these. There is retention inside the product, and there is retention outside all of these things that everyone does. I wake up every day with 20 notifications. I press one button, all of them are gone. I don't know how many of you read SMSs or have time to read SMSs. No one does that. So how do you even do things within the product which ensure that the user comes back or stays with the app? That is the holy grail of retention. That is how retention has evolved and is going to evolve in the next 5 years. No one cares about email now anymore. I think 10 years ago, my first job was email marketing specialist. Now no one cares about email. I think same is going to happen with all of these. But again, you are more targeted, you are more contextual. These things will survive. But how do you do that stuff within the product is what everyone should start thinking about. What we've done now is, because gaming has just so much data, we have almost 6 terabytes of data that we generate every day because of the games that people play. We've developed certain things which are prediction algorithms using data science. That if I understand that a user has transacted 7 times with us in the first 10 days and transacted very high, we tag that person as a whale. And we start giving that person the same experience that someone who's been with us for the last 360 days has. So if I'm sure you have a lot of people who are great and you identify them in the first 7 days, but the challenge is, are you able to retain them? Are you able to even give them the service that a whale deserves? The second is churn prediction model. Because you have so much data, how do you just ensure that you identify 5 or 10 events in a user's journey, in a user's life cycle, and ensure that, okay, these are the 10 events. If only one of them is hit by the customer, you assign some score against that user ID. If 7 out of 10 events have happened, you say that, okay, now there is a 70% that the user will churn. Can you do a product intervention before that? Can you do a product intervention when maybe 5 out of 10 events are done? So again, slightly complicated, but this, because you've done all the hygiene when it comes to retention, this is the next step to go. Bonus affinity and bonus propensity models. What it means is that not everyone needs a 50% cashback. There would be users who would be happy with a 10% cashback. Again, not everyone needs cashback. So you would assign a particular bonus affinity to a user. Is the user score 2 out of 10? 2, the user does not need cashback. 10, the user needs cashback every time they make a transaction. Then, does the user need 200 cashback, 100 cashback, 50 cashback? Otherwise, what you'll do is you'll just end up burning a lot of money as bonuses while not generating incremental ROI or incremental revenue. These are some things that we do over and above the hygiene when it comes to journeys, retention models, RFM, automations, etc. This is the last slide. Again, what makes you, and I'll step out of gaming maybe, but what makes you come back to your favorite product? What makes you, how many people play Wordle every day? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. They don't give you any cashback. They don't give you, there are no leaderboards, etc., etc. But I'm sure when people play Wordle and they solve it in 3 or 6 or 2 by 6, in the second attempt or the third attempt, they do share it with their friends. Right? So that's what keeps you coming back to the product, because it still gives you that value. What we've also figured out is that there is a life beyond discounts. So marrying this principle of life beyond discounts and then identifying that, okay, this is what makes you coming back to play the game or coming back to open the product. I divided into 2 or 3, 4 parts. One is sense of achievement. Levels, missions, I think all of this started from gaming in the first place. What I think people have done brilliantly in EdTech is, you complete a chapter, there is something nice that is displayed to you. You complete a questionnaire, you score 100 out of 100, there is something nice that is done to you. So Can you give the user a sense of achievement while they are using your product? Or if they've, uh, again, 10 orders in month in food tech, again, it's very, I probably make more than that, but if someone is making 10, 15, 20 orders and coming back to your app every day, are you giving them something in return? Are you giving them some sense of achievement so that this person is, apart from just the product being great, that is why the user is coming back, but this is something that you're giving. Friends, social network, I think we've talked about that. A lot of people play games. Raise of hands, how many people played Ludo in the first wave? Yeah. How many people played in the second wave? No, right? Like 1. So 1 out of 10. That is their year-on-year retention. When you say Ludo is a great product. But you played on Ludo because your friends and family were playing on it. Right? ऐसा नहीं था कि आप खुद एकदम से आपने Ludo का app खोला and you were like, आज Ludo खेलूंगा. No, that didn't happen. Friends and family pushed you to play that game. Right? And that is how Ludo King or someone else generated revenue. Similarly, you opened Dream 11 because you have an office contest, you have a contest with friends, and that is why you play on the app. I think Flipkart site tried something with, maybe it was called Ping or something, which was a group shopping experience, but it didn't work for them. But at least they tried. What a lot of stock, I think there was Ajay from Stock Grow. What a lot of stock marketing or stock trading, free stock trading apps do is they create leaderboards within the group in terms of who's doing the best. So that is one way of getting users or getting users to constantly engage with your product. Then bragging rights. This was very, very, very popular in my college, especially Need for Speed Most Wanted edition. Is that once you crossed all 50 levels that were there, आपने बिल्कुल पुलिस नहीं पकड़ पाई आपको, आप बिल्कुल शाहरुख खान हो गए. But this was the bragging right, and that is why people used to play. Because in Need for Speed, there are 10, 15 type of circuits. Once you play all of them, there is no novelty to it. There are 10 to 15 types of vehicles that the police has to catch you. After that, there's no novelty. So novelty became bragging rights. Can you introduce certain features in your product through which a consumer or your user has bragging rights that I am doing this with this product and this is where I am. I am cool because I'm using this product. Top reviewer in food tech is a great example. Back in the days, Zomato, the people who were top reviewers on Zomato used to get access to almost every good new restaurant launch in the city, right? So that was one way in which Zomato ensured that it had constant engagement with the consumer. Last, again, micro dopamine events. What we do is that in a micro dopamine event, it is something that you feel very happy about, instantaneous happiness. How many played Counter-Strike or Dota in their college? If you put a headshot, that is your day is done. And if you're doing it against the person that you despise the most, then your week is done, right? Because you have bragging rights. You have that micro dopamine event that they've created. Even if you knife someone, that becomes like a year-long bragging right thing, right? क्योंकि अभी headshot मारना तो easy हो गया. So, can you create those micro dopamine events in your app so that whenever the consumer transacts on your app, he or she feels very happy about it? It could not be every time, but can it be once every 3 orders, once every 4 orders? But that is something that all of us can think about. I think, again, EdTech has gamified the whole experience so brilliantly that this is one thing that I really liked, which is free SIM card with international flight ticket. I think Matrix, I'm not sure if they did do that as of now, still now, but there were 1 or 2 companies which did that very brilliantly. That was a micro dopamine event for me. Yeah, so again, that's the session about. Thank you so much for being so patient. I know this was the last session of the day, but thank you so much.